New products coming from Apple soon. You're going to want these.
Welcome to the All Future Podcast, guys. We're glad to have you here. A few milestones this week. 4,000 subs. Thank you guys for subscribing.
Yes, thank you very much.
Also, we're averaging 10,000 views a video now.
Wow.
I'm excited about that. And, me and you, we run other YouTube channels where 10,000 views would be a disaster. We'd be like, shut it down. Like, we can't do this anymore, right? But somehow I'm more excited about these 10,000 views than a million view video and one of these other things. Because I like this project. I think it's very interesting what we're trying to do here. And that is really have more meaningful conversations about tech and how it's affecting our lives and how we're going to integrate with it. So thank you guys for watching this.
Yes, thank you.
I guess the average of 10,000 people who are watching every video. Thanks a lot. All 10,000 of you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And today, all 10,000 guys, we're going to talk about something that, we probably somehow is one of our most popular topics to talk about. And it's the HomePod SiriPro ecosystem thing. There has been a rumor about a HomePod with a screen for years.
Yeah.
Years. I think maybe since the HomePod was first announced, even, but there's some almost somewhat solid evidence, I guess, that it's coming soon. Or at least Apple is thinking about it more seriously. What's going on?
Well, in code for tvOS 17.4, they're referencing an Apple HomePod with a screen specifically. So apparently it's identified as Z314.
Of course it is. What else would you call it?
Yeah, but it's capable of running tvOS and uses HomePod firmware. So that's basically what we got right there.
Yeah.
But apparently you can't engage with the tvOS interface in it or something. There's details like that we don't exactly know what they mean, but it's definitely showing us that Apple is absolutely working on this product. And I think it makes a lot of sense, especially I think we're both people that use Apple HomeKit quite a bit.
Constantly, yeah.
And there's times where, at least in the current iteration, I don't always want to engage with voice. It'd be just nice to just reach over and tap a screen and not have to pull out a phone, navigate to the home app, or use my voice and maybe get misunderstood in some way. Yeah. That's the first use case I think that they would advertise. But then you'd have all sorts of other stuff. You'd have built-in FaceTime calls, a device for that, which I think especially for people who don't always have something or don't want to hold up their phone. We've all had the FaceTime calls with people where they're holding it at a crazy angle. This would automatically do that.
Weirdo down angle people. What are you doing? Bring that thing up.
Exactly. And that kind of stuff, automatic music player that you can scroll through, maybe device to watch stuff, maybe recipes, just kind of everything that an iPad has, but it's always sitting on your counter and probably an always on display as well.
Yeah, this is the holy grail kitchen device for me. This is what I want in my kitchen. I got a full-size HomePod in the kitchen right now. I don't want to put a TV in my kitchen. That seems lame. But there are times when I'm like, oh, it'd be cool if I could watch this show or this YouTube video or something while I'm in there cooking. I don't have the Vision Pro like you do. Evidently, you're cooking in your Vision Pro, watching stuff. So I'm not that cool.
I've tried it. I don't know.
For us guys who aren't as cool as Ryan and just want the screen on, right? So, and I think of things even like music selection. Sometimes, especially with all the problems with getting Siri to actually do what you want it to do with the music. A lot of times, I'll just pull out my phone and just play to the HomePod from the phone, and that's just easier to do. So there's tons of times where the screen would make sense. Bringing up video doorbell stuff. In those kind of areas of the home where it's inconvenient to have another screen or I got to do something else, having a HomePod with a screen on it makes a lot of sense, right? And especially if we're talking about this integration with AI that's going to happen, that seems inevitable at this point, between this partnership with OpenAI and Apple and whatever Apple's developing for themselves. There's sometimes where having the information returned from an AI in visual form is much, much better than audio form. And in fact, sometimes can only really be displayed in visual form, right? So if I ask my AI, hey, how am I supposed to chop an onion? The description of that is not going to be good. I'm not going to be able to really follow that, right?
Yeah.
But if it then brings up some kind of visual component, that works, right? And I'm using a lot of kitchen metaphors now, but around the house, having that display show you things just works better sometimes.
And we've already seen devices like this, so it's not out of the question. Amazon had one or has one. Google has one. Meta had one or has them.
Yeah, you can go buy these at Target right now. Like these things make in different screen sizes, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
And overall, they're not that expensive. They're fairly standard, useful devices. But I guess the main thing is just that Apple ecosystem. Like, I haven't bought any of those devices because it's not going to be as easy as even right now. If I just set up a HomePod and an iPad, that would be a better integration as an Apple ecosystem person than buying a Google or Amazon or Meta
this
device.
is one of those things that like people would just be like, you weirdo Apple fanboys. Like, but this, for me, this is true. I agree with you as well. For some people, this might not be the case. Maybe you know, if you really have committed to the Google ecosystem, say, or the Amazon Echo ecosystem, you know, you have all those devices that might work really great for you. I'm committed to the Apple system, so I would rather an Apple thing to begin with. And I don't actually feel like I'm necessarily locked into it. I just feel like it works better for me. AirPlay is awesome. Like, if you live in a home with multiple HomePods, multiple Apple TVs, multiple people in the home, all these kinds of things, being able to just select what speakers are going to play what, like play music throughout your home, all these kind of things, you know, that you used to have to buy like Sonos systems for and all this type of stuff. I love having all that smoothly integrated. It works. It's rock solid. Like, I'm not fiddling with some kind of Bluetooth thing. Like, it's all integrated to everything. So I love that. And if you gave me a permanent base station for that to control everything in my home from some kind of base station, presumably a HomePod with a screen, I'm in. I love this.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing you see in really nice homes that are like wired with
the
light. You walk in,
the old school like millionaire screen on the wall kind of thing. Yeah,
exactly. And I think all of that technology we've just seen come down in price, and you can set it up yourself. You don't need an installation, and this is like the next layer of that, giving you that home base that you're talking about. But ultimately, I think Apple is going to be going after the Apple ecosystem nerds with a product like this. So what features would you see it bringing that would convince someone that's not at all Apple ecosystem? They're laughing at us right now. What features would Apple convince them on with this kind of device?
Well, their first feature needs to be a good price.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be the biggest thing. And if you look at the full-size HomePod is an expensive speaker. You know, like, just in general. I know again, I got multiple of them in my home. So I've got 3 full-size and one of the smaller ones, you know. And that's a kind of when you price all that out, I'm just doing it in my head right now. I'm like, geez, I spent a lot of money on all this stuff. I'm like, so what is that version of that with a screen going to cost? Especially if that screen is essentially an iPad mini, right? And if you think about it, that's kind of what it's going to be, undoubtedly, right? It's good. We were talking about it running tvOS, but it's also going to, if that's what they're kind of testing here, it's going to also need to have other features that tvOS doesn't currently have. For, you know, because tvOS has and it's gotten a lot better, has a lot of cool stuff. You can watch your security cameras from tvOS. You can talk to Siri from tvOS and activate HomeKit things through it. But it's not like I can open up tvOS right now and navigate to my thermostat somehow and control that through that system. Yeah, it's going to need to be some kind of cross between the tvOS and an iPad OS and the HomePod. It's got a lot of things going here. So can Apple make this thing for $199, which is probably kind of a target price? Like, and I think what Apple's really going to do is charge $350 for this thing.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, going to turn a lot of people off.
And then, it's got to be a good enough speaker that you want it, assuming it has a built-in speaker. But they can't destroy the nice HomePod, or it needs to interface perfectly with it. I'm not sure how they.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, are you gonna is the HomePod now only going to be a version with the screen? Because there's also a rumor about just adding a display just to the top of the HomePod as it exists now. So instead of the color light things, just having a display sitting on top of it right there, which seems less useful to me. You already have like kind of all the functions you would want there. You know, you can control volume, next song, all this kind of stuff. So like what is having a display that small going to do for you? I don't know, but yeah, I think that's what Apple, and that may be why Apple hasn't made this thing. Because the technology has been there for a while. I would say what is different though is that maybe it's the AI part of it, right? Like, is that what's going to make people actually buy this thing if it's got a really cool AI integration?
It could be because like you said, we're finally going to be able to get engagement back and forth that you actually want to do with voice. You don't even have to think about it. It's super natural. On top of that, anytime you need any visual feedback, it's able to give it to you.
Yep.
And any visual controls, like there's still times where I don't think I can explain the music I want to listen to.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
It's just like guys like me and you have these kind of esoteric, weird music taste, you know? Like, yeah, it's like, like how do we, how do I explain to Apple that, no, I don't want to hear crooner Christmas songs. I want to hear deep cut Bing Crosby. Yeah. Do that for me, you know?
But not, exactly. That happens to me all the time. It's the worst. Or like, I want this specific live version of this song or this specific, and getting that from Siri currently is pretty impossible. But anyways, speaking of additional AI stuff, we are seeing that on the HomePod side of things. I would love to see this device. I'm curious how they can organize that pricing wise. But then on the other side of things, separate from phones, we're also seeing a patent for an Apple wearable.
Ooh.
It's like an wearable. It could be kind of a pin in its future iteration, but it seems like right now it's a wearable device with directional audio. That is the description of it. And the quote says, the wearable device can be worn on clothing of the user and direct audio waves to the ears of the user.
Pretty cool tech there, right? Like, so the idea is that it's using kind of audio beam technology to make a really narrow sound wave so that it only comes toward your ears.
So it's like the pin's here and then it's just pointing it.
That's what the patent is. I'm not an audio engineer. I don't know how that technology works, but it seems pretty cool. And the idea is that you could be able to hear what this pin is telling you with little to no listening in from the people around you. Essentially, it's making a cone of sound just towards your ears.
Yeah.
Is again what the patent says. I don't know how well this would work in practice. But seems pretty cool. And I think if we've talked a lot about what form factor is going to win for the AI wearable. And the Humane pin, kind of famously over the last few weeks, has just been destroyed in reviews. Yeah. But I don't think that has anything to do with the actual wearing of it for the most part. Most people actually, the hardware is cool. There's like, the software doesn't work that great. I don't think people are opposed to a wearable like that, whatever you want to call it, a pin, or maybe it's on a necklace or something like that. I don't think people are opposed to it. Kind of some of the idea there is that earbuds, no matter how good the transparency system is, it always blocks sound and hurts the awareness of your surroundings. Some people just don't like having something in their ears, you know. For some people, like, no matter how many ear tips they try, they don't fit right. There's all these kind of things. So this kind of would solve that. Yeah. It also, if you really design it as a full feature thing, solves the problem of how do you have the visual sensor of AI constantly seeing the surroundings, which is what the pen solves. So there's really only two solutions to that right now. It's the pen or the glasses with a camera system or some kind of sensor array on the side. That's really the only way that people are really seeing how to like make that sensor see the world constantly. With the glasses, you have maybe a similar problem you do with the AirPods, that some people just don't want to wear those. Yeah. It's just uncomfortable. It falls off, something. Like, you know, there's a myriad of reasons why people wouldn't want that. And this could kind of solve that problem, I think, in a way that lets people get the best of both worlds. A sensor always on, and only you can hear what it's saying.
Yeah, the only you can hear is really interesting to consider, because there's been stuff that's kind of trying to do that. Like, I think the Meta glasses, I think Bose even makes, or is it the neck thing that Bose makes?
There's these weird neckband headphones that just project it up. It doesn't seem to be as kind of like an advanced technology as this. There's also bone vibration headphones, you know, that like they're not in your ear, but they're vibrating near your ear so you can hear it. So a lot of weird stuff. Yeah,
that are headphone alternatives, so it's not like something in your ear or on your ear.
Right.
Same kind of thing here.
In the military, we had throat mics. So there's this little thing you put on your throat right here. So whatever, you're about to like capture a terrorist and need to whisper so like no one can hear you. So you can talk like inaudibly low, but the radios would still pick it up. So there's like a lot of like weird things you can do like that to have like, it seems like your voice and the voice coming from the speakers would be in the world, but you can actually kind of close it in a little better. But we'll see. I think a word of caution here. Apple patents a lot of stuff, man. Yeah. Apple patents a ton of stuff. The things that Apple has patented we've never seen. You know, foldable iPhones. The HomePod thing we just talked about, right? You know, whatever. They built whole cars they haven't even released, you know? So I don't know if we're actually going to see this thing. And what it might be is just securing the patent for this tech that's going to be built into other things at some point, you know, because you could really, if you really refine this directional audio thing, you know, we were just talking about the HomePod system. Imagine that thing's just sitting in your kitchen, your living room, whatever, and instead of having to have headphones on so you're not bothering anyone, it's like following you around the room with the directional cone, so you're constantly getting, you know, good sound from it no matter where you're at without having to blast the audio. So, yeah, it seems cool. I think this is probably it's pretty far off or not going to happen.
Yeah. I'm curious to see, because it's obvious that from an R&D standpoint, Apple is working on tons of different tech and tons of different iterations of how AI will work in the future. So on this one, the patent actually describes detecting, measuring, and or tracking one or more properties of the user. And I think you could say that about their future vision for the Apple Vision. You could say that probably for the watch coming in the future. And all of this basically, I think, just comes down to AI. So it's just them figuring out which form factor. But I'm really curious to see if maybe we actually see them do this. Instead of it's like they're in R&D on all these products and then finally release the one. It's like we might see them release the Apple Vision, maybe release some kind of pin thing, maybe add a camera to the Apple Watch, and it's actually all kind of doing the same stuff, trying to detect things and figure out the best recipe to be able to deliver you the best results and be able to engage with it the best way. And then eventually in decades or something, we're like, oh, this is the one Apple device
against one thing. Yeah, it's totally possible. And I mean, if you think about what the devices Apple makes right now, you can make an argument that all these are information communication devices, right? And they have incredible similar functionality, right? Like what does at its fundamental level, what is an iPad doing that an iPhone doesn't do, right? Like, what is the watch doing that the phone doesn't do, right? Like, they each have their own kind of specialty, you know, they can do that the other device can't. But there's almost all of it is overlap. Like, if you think about how people are using these things, right, for, you know, texting, talking, capturing memories, all these kind of things, like it's like all these devices, even going to the MacBook, right? Like there are Mac Pros, all these kind of things are really like, there's a ton of overlap in them. So maybe that's what we're going to see, is a family of AI worlds, you know, integrating devices, and then, you know, you can kind of pick which one you like the best.
Yeah, and then maybe adding the watch means you're able to more accurately see this part of the world.
Which is what happens now. I mean, think about like the fitness things, right? Like you can your phone counts your steps, but it counts it better if you have the watch on, right? So maybe there's that sort of thing where it's like, oh, like, yeah, like if you add this to it, you know, if you really want to Apple fanboy out and have the full gear, which, I mean, let's face it, we're probably going to do that when it happens. But it has like this level of integration you couldn't get just from one device.
Yeah. Speaking of the watch, though, we've been speculating for a while about the camera. I don't know how much of this came from just us speculating or if this was originally based off a rumor. I don't remember, but there's now a rumor of them adding a camera to the Apple Watch. And it's interesting. Again, I don't know if it's speculative or actually the rumor of what they're working on, but apparently this mentions a camera to take photos and use for Face ID. And Face ID, I guess, I'm just thinking like you look at your watch automatically, so that's how it unlocks.
That's seeing one. I'm a fan of a more sensors on the watch. I'm a fan of that. I don't know, Face ID on the watch. Why?
Yeah.
like what's the situation? Because right now the pin code system is actually, I think, one of the simplest, most clever thing Apple has come up with. Right. And it may be for probably like the 3% of the audience out here who doesn't wear an Apple Watch. I imagine most people watch this video wear Apple Watches, right? But when you put the Apple Watch on in the morning, you have to put your passcode in. And as long as you don't take the watch off, it's considered unlocked, right? And then so if you Apple Pay with something, or you buy things through Apple TV or whatever, and you can confirm on your watch all these things. As long as that watch hasn't been removed, it's ready to go. And then it has the sensor, so if you remove the watch, it relocks it.
Yeah.
You can also set up so it always passcodes. I don't know anyone who does that. That seems nuts, but. So this seems like a pretty elegant solution.
Yeah.
Already. Why do we need Face ID in this thing?
I would guess that's just people speculating based off it has a camera.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? They're just thinking of reasons they would do. Yeah. I like it as just a way to not pull out your phone to show an AI something. That's my favorite version of a and I don't even necessarily like to, because I think when you say camera, people associate taking photos for capturing memory style photography. What I mean is an optical sensor. Like that's really what I'm saying is what I think would be cool in the watch.
Yeah.
So if we use, when we were talking about the HomePod Pro, the idea of, asking it if I'm cutting the onions right or whatever, instead of having to pull out my phone, I've already got my watch on and I can just kind of point my wrist at the frying pan and be like, hey, is this right? And it detects it and knows what's going on. And it's not even trying to take a picture. Yeah, it's just like using an optical sensor, figuring it out.
Yeah. I just thought of a similar thing, which is that Teslas have either 7 or 8 cameras, and you can access 5 of them in the Sentry mode security system. But 2 of them you literally can't. I don't think you can get the feeds from those cameras, but it's absolutely being used for all of the self-driving stuff. So same kind of thing here. You don't even need to access this camera, because maybe it's low enough quality that it doesn't matter, but it's high enough quality to perceive the world and answer questions
or
for
seeing
you.
things in a different way. I'm sure those Tesla cameras are probably either like high contrast cameras or something like that aren't even like making images you want to see, right?
It's true.
You could also, you can do cameras that are doing different wavelengths, either whatever, infrared or UV or something, right? To like detect different types of things, things that you don't, as a person, you're like, I don't need to see this garbled image, but the system is getting a lot of data from it.
Yeah. But ultimately, I still think the glasses are the best future iteration because of the addition of a screen.
Yeah.
So you have really great voice assistant. It could beam audio.
Yeah, you use
perfectly.
this audio. Yeah, this audio pattern that's beaming to your ear, right? Yeah.
And then you have the visual component, and you're fine wearing glasses because it's adding a screen that you can AR with and all that stuff. But either way, I love Apple patents. I love Apple rumors. I love future products. And there could be soon a Apple AI pin and a new HomePod Pro.
We'll buy them both.